Hello, I'm Jeff Schiffman, and I welcome you to Talking Heads, the program that allows you here on M10, the government channel, to meet some of the people, important people, who are behind the scenes and help make the government of this city and this area work. And our guest today is one of those people, very definitely making it work, Peggy Ayers. Peggy Ayers is the district aide to State Senator Pam Rezor. And even though Pam Rezor has an abundance number of responsibilities for a region larger than just Marlborough, you are located actually in the Walker Building right here in Marlborough.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you know why that location was chosen as opposed to one of several others that might have been? I don't mean in the city. I mean, why was Marlborough chosen?
I think Marlborough happens to be a very good location, sort of in the middle of the district, an area that's much easier for a lot of people to get access to. Since we are right off of 495, 20, 85, it's very, very centrally located to a lot of different areas. And it's much more convenient for a lot of people to come into the district office than to go to Boston for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, since the State House does not have an 800 number, it's a lot easier for people from the district to call here in the, to Marlborough than to call into Boston.
We'll get into, and in addition, Marlborough is a spiffy place. Yes.
Yes, it is.
We'll get into sort of how people call, how they might use the services of your office and, shortly. But I wanted to start, people who watch this program might know that we talk so that people can get to know who you are in addition to what you do, your function. Where did you grow up?
Different places. I was originally from Long Island, New York, and I lived there for a short time, then moved to upstate New York. And then when I was in about the 7th grade, I moved to Arizona, lived there for a number of years, and then spent some time in Louisiana and Texas, and then back to Arizona, and then moved to North Carolina. And I've been here in Marlborough for the last 6 years.
Oh, you on the lam?
No. My husband worked for IBM for 20 years, and that some people may recognize IBM standing for I've been moved.
Yeah.
And that was moved around.
And 14 years ago, you say you moved to Marlborough?
6 years ago.
6
I
years
moved
ago.
to Marlborough.
Because? Was that an IBM thing?
He got laid off from IBM, and he was looking for work, and there was a lot of, computer information technology up here in this area. And he got a job for Chipcom, who got bought out by 3Com, and that's why we moved up here, because of his job.
And did you know Marlborough and this region before you got here at all?
We did some studies and checked out a lot of different things on the internet, and when we went on house hunting trips, we were also school shopping as well, and trying to check out the different communities, and we liked Marlborough.
And that was 6 years ago, so now, you glad?
Yes, we've been very happy here.
Are you surprised by, I mean, I don't, as I say out front, I don't live in Marlborough, but since I'm happily spending so much time here, I have been astonished by the costs of housing.
Housing costs was a big surprise. This is by far the most expensive place we've ever lived. But I think you also get a lot more for your money. The services, the community, the caring, there seems to be a lot more of that going on in Marlborough.
Do you use the city, you and your family? And do you find things to do here?
Oh yes, every Thursday evening you'll find me out at the concerts. The kids play baseball or basketball in the city leagues. The recreation department always seems to have something going on for someone in the family. The library, I think, is absolutely wonderful. And I've lived a lot of different places, and I've never seen a library that has so many different services. The tapes, the computer games, always getting in new books, passes to different museums, things that You know, I'll call and I'll talk to my daughter in North Carolina. Okay, well, check that out at your library. She goes, we don't have that. So there's a lot to
I
like.
also think, I always like to plug, the rec department does an amazing diversity of
Yes,
activity.
yes, they do.
Yeah. So, okay, so your husband came here to work for what now is,
3Com.
and we hope forever, 3Com. We hope. What did you come here to do?
Raised my family, and I happened to be driving along Route 9 one day, and there was a great big billboard up there that says, "It's never too late to be the person you always wanted to be." And at the same time I saw that billboard, my son in the back seat, I think he must have been 3 or 4 at the time, he goes, "Well, what are you going to do when you grow up, Mom?" And I know he couldn't read the sign at the time, but
Are you serious about this actually happened? This
yes,
just happened?
at the same time, and I'm thinking, wow, well, what is it? What did I really want to be before I had 6 children? You know? And I found it wasn't exactly the same thing, but I always wanted to do something. So, and I thought, well, I really would like to do some writing.
Oh.
And
Had you ever written before?
I did work for a newspaper in Arizona before, and I worked for the University of Arizona Press. I started out as an invoice clerk and then worked my way up into the marketing department. The person who got to read the books and then write the little blurb that goes on the back or in their catalog material. So for me, that was a great job because I love to read.
I would like you to, and we'll encourage you to tell us some more about then what happened after you decided to grow up and do something. But I can't let go by. You had 6 children?
6 children.
Was that a thing you just planned, you and your husband decided? Did you wanted that many children?
Yes, yes. I probably could have had more, but I think 6 was his limit.
His limit?
Yeah.
But you could have done more than 6?
Yeah, I probably could have.
Wow. Your very own constituency.
Yes, yes. Basketball team, almost to a baseball team, you know, a lot of different things.
What's the age range?
Spencer is the youngest, and he's 9, and he'll be going into the 4th grade at the middle school.
He was the one in the back seat?
He was the one in the back seat.
Yeah.
And the oldest is 25, and she lives in North Carolina.
So what are these? Is 9, and I always am curious about how quickly you had these kids.
9 and 12, 16, 19, 24, and 25.
There were these funny little down years.
Yeah,
when you didn't have
a little time off for good behavior.
And they all very close?
Pretty much.
Wow.
My 16-year-old is down in North Carolina now visiting her sister.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's nice, because there's enough of an age disparity so that if that doesn't happen, they can lose connections to one another. Okay, so you have these 6 kids. Now you got this wiseacre kid in the back seat saying, "Wait,
right, helping me along." So I decided to take a class at Assabet After Dark, and I took a writing class there, and then I liked it so well I did another one. I was a Girl Scout leader at the time. I still am.
What a surprise.
And I started writing some articles. The girls were doing some absolutely wonderful stuff, and I wanted to let everybody else know about it. I thought it was great. So I brought the articles into to John Town, who was the editor of the Enterprise at the time, and he was very happy with them. And a few weeks later, he had an ad in the paper looking for freelance writers. So I called him back and I said, you know, you were interested in my stories for free. Would you be willing to pay me for them? And he said yes. So I started as a freelance writer.
So was that soon after?
Yes, yes, very, very quickly. And one of the articles that I wrote was about Assabet Valley High School, which I very dearly love. My son graduated from there last year, and like I said, I took courses there, and then I ended up as the publicist there for a couple of years, and got to work with a lot of the press in the area. And
now, what would a publicist for a high school do?
Publicize the different activities that are going on, letting people know what was happening at the high school. And you talk about a busy place. That school is put to use all the time, always something going on.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about Assabet before we go now to your new life. Because even though that's, I'm sure, is true, and one of our most prized employees, is also a graduate of Assabet. I think that's fairly low profile in general in the community, and maybe people aren't aware at how important really that school is to this area.
That's one of the reasons that we moved to Marlboro, that we were, my son who's 19 that graduated from there, in Arizona and in North Carolina there were no vocational schools. So this was like an awakening. We'd never seen anything like that, and it was just wonderful. We walked in the doors unannounced and they gave us a tour, and we just loved what we saw.
So you get a good, pretty sound academic education, but
Very.
it allows people who have specialized in technological interests to develop those and have those nurtured along the way as well.
Yes, yes, and they have a wide variety of courses available for the students to take and for adults to take during the day and in the evening. And that was one of the things that surprised me, is that they had adult education going on at the same time. They had GED courses, they have practical nursing. It's a wonderful place to go have lunch. When I was working,
Why is that?
the Epicurean room, which is their kitchen / classroom for the kids in the culinary arts division, and they just have some absolutely wonderful meals.
And the public can just go?
The public can go when school is in session. You may want to call and make reservations. Wednesdays and Fridays are busy, busy days. And they have a fantastic menu to choose from. And when I would come home at night and I wouldn't feel much like fixing dinner, the kids would go, "I know where you ate today. You were at the Epicurean room," and yes, and you'd just be stuffed.
And there's a man who has a wonderful convertible car who comes around near the Walker Building every once in a while. And it's a car that I have coveted for years. I'm sure I will never have one, but and he told me, and I said, "It looks so beautiful." He said, "Oh yeah, because the kids at Assabet painted this car. They took it on as a project." Now how, I don't want to get, but how would that happen?
They have an auto body shop, and they have an auto repair, and the public can bring in their cars to be fixed or to be painted. They do not take insurance, and it's a great price. They do great work. The painting and decorating, I've had furniture done there that has just been outstanding.
So you just go over and do it. And now they might be doing the old firehouse. The mayor has revived. That's an extraordinary opportunity.
Well, there's a house on South Street that they built a couple of years ago, and then it was sold and the money went to the Boys and Girls Club. The Union Common down here, downtown Marlboro, the kids have gone and worked and gotten that looking really good.
Now your heart was with Assabet for how many years?
2 years.
And then what happened?
Again, I was with Girl Scouts, and we were having our end of the year program, and we had some girls who were receiving their silver award, and we invited the mayor, the state rep, and our very newly elected state senator. And I was very pleased that she came, and she had citations for the girls. She had a personalized letter for each of the girls, kind of rolled up and scrolled, and she also spoke to the group and told them she used to be a Girl Scout, and how her time in Girl Scouting has helped her, in the years. And it was just very, very moving and inspirational. And I thought, oh my gosh, if there's ever anything I can do to help this woman along, I would like to be able to do it. And a few days later, I was covering my freelance job with the Marlboro Enterprise and the Hudson Sun, the Hudson Festival. And she happened to be there, and I wanted to make sure that her picture got in the paper. And a short time later, the position for aide, she was going to be opening up an office here in Marlboro and was looking for people to work in her office. And a friend of mine who I worked with at the Cultural Arts program that I was doing at the Richard Bigelow School was applying for the job. And I said, "Oh, Valerie, that just sounds wonderful." She goes, "Oh, well, I'm only applying for half-time, and I'm applying with somebody else." And I thought, oh, darn. I certainly don't want to apply for it when my friend's applying for it. But I did call her just to see how, it had turned out, and the other person who was going to apply with her backed out. So I said, Valerie, let me apply with you. And we got the job.
But you're not part-time now.
No, I work 4 days a week. And we do have somebody else who comes in the other day that I'm off.
What happened to Valerie?
Valerie moved to the Midwest. So I think she...
Well, now, you left Aspet.
I left Aspet. I was kind of working part-time for both places, and that just got a little confusing and a little hard to do. So I decided I would just rather be part-time here.
And let me just say that who we are speaking with here, so people will know, because now I want to talk about the office. This is Peggy Ayers, and she is, as you've just heard, the district aide, having pulled Valerie out, made her move to the Midwest.
No. I was happily sharing with Valerie.
Okay, that's your story. Anyway, Peggy Ayers is the district aide 4 days a week to State Senator Pam Rezor. Her office is, happily for us, because we have this nice relationship, I think, with her, are right downstairs in the Walker Building. We're on the second floor now, and you're diagonally across and below on the first floor. It occurs to me that you had, here you are new to the world of political service, with a state senator who's new as a state senator in an office that's brand new, because there was never any office like that here, which is a wonderful opportunity to sort of think it from the ground up. How have you structured the office? What do you do there, and how does it work?
What do we do in the office in particular? Well, the main thing is that we're here for anyone in the Senator's 14 communities to come in to see the Senator, or to speak with me, to let their opinions be known. If there's legislation before the Senate and they want to get their opinion, if there's something they feel should be done or shouldn't be done, or they want her help with something, or they have a question, and sometimes we're not always the right place for people to go to. Sometimes it's very much a local issue for their city or town, or it's a federal issue, but sometimes people don't always differentiate between that, and they just call the first person that they think of. And I'm glad that in a lot of places they do think to call us. And if we can't help, then we try and find the person who can help.
And this is an unusual setting, because State Rep Steve LeDuc is right down the hall, also on the first floor. So you have a lot of legislative clout going on there.
We have Steve LeDuc, we have Marty Meehan has an office, and then our office. So it's kind of like one-stop legislative shopping, all on the bottom floor of the Walker Building. I
want to tell people that they should get pencil and paper handy, because we're going to give the phone number. We're going to ask Peggy Ayers to give us the phone number where you can call, and the hours and all of that in a few moments, so be prepared to write it down if you need it. But how does it work? Do people just drop in?
People sometimes drop in, they call, they make an appointment, and the Senator is very, very good about meeting people here. Sometimes people may be working and they really want to see her in Acton, and she tries to stop by there, if she can. So she's very, very flexible.
What do most people come in, if there is, do you find some common thread?
Affordable housing seems to be the very biggest issue, and I know you had said how expensive it is. It really is, and that does seem to be, I would say, the #1 concern of a lot of people.
Are most of the people who are new to this area, or?
Not necessarily new to the area. Well, there's a lot of people who have grown up here and their family is here, and now they want to go out and they want to buy a house or an apartment of their own and stay in the community that they're familiar with, and there's just not...
They can't do it.
And they can't do it. I have a 19-year-old son who wants to move out of the house, but it's hard. It's hard to find a place that he can afford.
So what do you tell him? Not just them, but your son?
Yeah.
What do you tell him?
Keep looking. And he has kind of spread out looking into Hudson and to Berlin, and just keep keep moving. So I think he's thinking about buying a condo and going that route.
Do you see a fair number or a small number of people who don't speak English? Because there's a very large number of people.
A few, but we're also very fortunate that we have Fatina right down the hall, and we have translators available right here in the Walker Building, so that's not a problem.
In addition to affordable housing issues, do people just come in and want to just talk?
Yes, yes, I do get that quite a bit also. Or bring in their kids, and because I really do like kids, so I get a lot of parents come in with their kids, and they just want to talk. They just want to see how things are going, or say they think, oh, the senator's doing a great job, or she's very visible in the community, and they really appreciate that, or that she's able to help them with something. And that's always, I think, one of the nicest parts, when you are able to help someone in the community.
Do you find, I think perhaps state government is a little different from what I'm about to ask because it's so immediate and touchable, but that given what we've heard and seen in recent years with regard to leadership in government, that there's some cynicism about government, that people come in?
Some do, but a lot of people come in believing that, you know, this is the person that they've elected, and this is the person who's there to help them, and that's what they get.
So they're still believers?
Yes, yes.
Now, how does Senator Resor work it? Does she come in on a regular schedule? When does she come in?
She was coming in on a regular basis, say like every Friday, but now she comes more on appointment, or she has something out in the district, or if somebody calls and said, oh, I really only have this date available, then she usually tries to work with them. So if anybody is interested, please call the office and we will find a date and a time.
Now's the time. Give her the phone number.
508-786-3040.
786-3040. What's, if you even have a sense of this, the proportion of people who come from Marlborough who show up, or and what from outside of Marlborough?
A lot. Well, Marlborough is the largest city in her 14 communities, so we do see a lot of people from Marlborough, but we get it from all over, really. Northborough, Southborough, Westborough, Acton, Littleton, Ayer. Not too many people I've seen from Harvard. We get people from Hudson, so it's pretty much all over.
Now, she does a regular program on Channel 10, on m10. And that program is seen pretty much throughout the district on other cable systems.
Yes, we're working on getting that to all the communities. And right now it's in Hudson, Stowe, Acton, Northborough, Southborough, and Westborough. And
this is not us. I'm interested in this because we operate these stations, and we want to know. Do you think people watch the program?
I think so. I have heard feedback from some people. Oh yes, I saw the senator when she was on the show, and I know they don't live in Marlborough, so I know they are seeing it elsewhere.
And within Marlborough?
Within Marlborough, I do get people who call and say, oh yes, we saw her, and then it makes them think, oh, and I wanted to tell her about. So it gives them an opportunity not only to hear some of the different issues and concerns that she presents on the program, but an opportunity for them to think, oh yeah, I wanted to tell her about this.
What do you like best about this job?
Everything.
Yeah, really?
Yes, I have a great boss.
Oh, stop.
Actually, I don't think I could work for somebody or for someplace that I didn't necessarily believe in. I think I would have too hard a time. So, so before I was even considering working for the senator, I did a little background on her, looked up all kinds of things on the internet to see, well, what kind of a person is she really? Because my first impression was she was absolutely wonderful, and that's exactly what it turned out to be, that yes, she really is like that all the time.
If you had to sort of poke through the pile of good things, though, what do you enjoy the most?
I guess working with the constituents and being able to help people. And the hardest part would be when somebody comes in and they have an issue and you can't do anything for them. That's the hardest.
What do you do then? How do you handle it?
Well, there are just some things that you really just can't do anything about, or if they are issues that are federal issues or local issues, you can kind of point them in the right direction, or you follow up and see if they're going to the places that they need, but you really can't do anything about the situation.
And you explain that to them in advance, and do they understand, or?
Most times
Yeah.
people do, but sometimes people go, oh, but I'm bringing this to you, why can't you just fix it?
Do you make it a practice or policy to always follow up to see what's happened with people?
Yes, I do. And if anybody calls, they will always get a return phone call. And anybody has a problem, then we always try to follow it up and see how they're doing.
And do you find that people give you feedback? Do they say, I really wish that the senator would spend more time on low-cost housing, or whatever the issue is?
Yes, they do. We receive emails from people. We do get letters. Or people will call and say, gee, I really think this is a problem, or gee, we understand that there really is an issue with affordable housing, and these are some suggestions that I think might be able to help.
Maybe it's just me, I think it just slipped by me. You're here 4 days a week. Which 4?
This week it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
This will be meaningless because the show is going to air at a different time.
Starting next week, it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll be taking 2 classes on Thursday.
So that will stay that way for quite a while?
Yeah, that will stay that way for a while. But there is somebody in on the days that I'm out.
And what time do you start?
9 to 5. And then I usually am gone to lunch from noon to 1. So.
And just shut down. Also not totally clear to me. It's okay if people just drop in?
Yeah,
or,
yeah. That's what we're there for, and I always leave my door open. And
your desk, I know, is pointing out so
right.
people can see you and you can see them.
That's right. And I'm always happy to see people. I'm in the office by myself, so I enjoy the company.
Do any of your children, your 6, show an interest in politics, and would you encourage them if they did?
I don't think any of them have really showed much of an interest in it, because I think they can see a little behind the scenes that, gee, that really is a lot of work. But the 2 youngest ones do help out. They will be, you'll see them in the Labor Day parade. They'll be pulling wagons, one full of candy and one full of water for people. We'll be marching with the senator. And if there's a large mailing, they'll sometimes come and help out.
And you yourself, you encouraged, forget the personalities for a moment. This dynamic of interaction encourages you about the possibilities for being helpful and really getting something good done by government?
Yes. And we also have some interns from the different area high schools that come in that really have an interest in politics, and they want to get a behind-the-scene look, and we're always welcome them to come in too.
Well, I can testify that the door is always open, and there's often candy there too. So
yes, there is.
Peggy Ayers is the district aide to State Senator Pam Rezor, and she has been our guest here on Talking Heads. I am Jeff Schiffman, and of course, we thank you very much for watching.
welcome to Planning in Marlborough. My name is Al Leamer, and I'm Planning Director for the City of Marlborough. Today we're going to be talking about the Assabet River that you see here. And the Assabet is the major river that flows through Marlborough, through its northwestern corner. But the Assabet is a good example of how we've progressed in cleaning up our water supplies, water resources rather, but also how a river can become the basis for the creation of a greenbelt system in a community, and how we can use rivers and streams as a basis for our open space acquisition strategy. This is the Assabet as it enters Marlborough from Northborough, and where it crosses, where the river crosses under Boundary Street. This is the Tyler Dam just above Robin Hill Street in Marlborough, a dam that was built for flood control purposes on the Assabet River. My guest today is Priscilla Ryder, who is Conservation Officer for the City of Marlborough. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you.
And our topic today is the effort that the city and other communities is undertaking to create a greenbelt along the Assabet River, to protect it through a greenbelt strategy, basically updating a 1986 master plan for the Assabet, but for that portion above the Hudson Dam, the dam in the town of Hudson. And how this began was that Priscilla was preparing an application for a greenway project to the Department of Environmental Management, and you and I got together and started talking about what we might include in that application.
And here we are.
Here we are. But it seemed to us that we initially started talking about a project for Marlborough, then it expanded because we said, well, why not take in the towns adjoining Marlborough, and then it sort of evolved into, well, why not go to the headwaters of the Assabet River to the Hudson? And what that resulted in was an application, a second year's application to the DEM for funding for a greenways plan that would incorporate the town of Hudson, the city of Marlborough, the town of Northborough, and the town of Berlin and Westborough.
Correct.
All five communities would join to develop a plan. And we did receive funding for that. It was a small amount of funding, but it allowed us to go to the Intel Corporation, which the organization of the Assabet River, another partner in this, did, and received, I think, about $10,000 in funding to create a plan. And also, the city of Marlborough asked the Marriott Corporation, who was building a hotel right near the Assabet River on Lynch Boulevard, to provide some also mitigation funds, and that provided another $10,000. And so we have 20, with the DEM grant, we have about, what,
26 or 26, right.
26,000 to assist the organization of the Assabet River to help us in developing a master plan for the Assabet. But the main thing, the best thing about this, is that 5 towns have gotten together to initiate planning on their own for the protection of a resource that we all have in common, which is the Assabet River. What value do you see in this, Priscilla? Is this going to be a good thing for us?
Yes, of course it is. I think rivers are important resources for all communities, and I mean in Marlborough, the Assabet River hasn't been a real focal point because it skirts the edge of Marlborough, so it doesn't run through the middle of it. It's not historically, 10 or 15 years ago, people driving by the river would roll up their windows because it was pretty smelly, and it was not good water quality. And the fact that we can stand here today and breathe and look over and see turtles and lots of good wildlife, and the fish are coming back, and it is a good sign that we're doing right by the river, and we're bringing it back to its kind of more natural, more healthy state of being. So that's a good thing. And this initiative really was to, in 1986, the real impetus to pulling this plan together, the 1986 Riverways Plan, was to focus mainly on water quality and figure out how that can be improved. Looking at this 1986 plan and where we've come is is pretty impressive. The river water quality has improved considerably. We still have a ways to go, but that we've made some big strides. And now the focus is that development is so prevalent in this area, starting in Westboro down to Hudson. We all 5 communities are experiencing a lot of pressure and growth, and protecting the greenway along the river is going to be important, not only for wildlife quality, but also for recreational abilities for the human type, as well as for, all the providing habitat for birds and amphibians and fish and the like.
Well, the value I see in this project too is that it provides a vision for all of us, for all 5 towns, as to what we'd like to see happen. As you say, the aspect doesn't appear to be an important feature in Marlboro because it sort of skirts the corner of the city, goes through industrially zoned land. You wouldn't think it matters all that much to the city, but when you look at it from the regional perspective, of the fact that it flows from Westboro to Northboro, Berlin, and Marlboro and Hudson, it provides a great vision for all of us, for all 5 of us, to work together for a common goal, which is to preserve as much of the Assabet River environment as we can. And that's the point of all this, not just to do a plan, but to work together to implement a plan, but a plan that we all agree on can work. And it's been 15 years since the 1986 plan was prepared. As you mentioned, water quality was a prime feature of that. And water quality is still an issue, and that's being pursued by the Assabet River Consortium, which is a different organization of the governments of the communities that comprise the upper Assabet River, I guess including Shrewsbury.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
I think it's 11 towns or something.
11 towns? Okay.
Some large amount.
And of course that deals with wastewater issues and what the basic pollution loading is of the Assabet, because it is a very slow-moving stream and for most of the year. And
correct. And most of our treatment water, sewage treatment plants, the treated water that comes from our sewage treatment plants dump into the river. So that is the biggest issue, and that has been the issue in 86, was that we were getting this tremendous inflow of nutrients and not well treated sewage into the river. Since then, the water quality, the treatment plants have been upgraded to a pretty good extent so that we're not getting the smells, but we're still getting some nutrients loading in the river. And this consortium that's being formed, along with, I believe it was funded, and I don't quote me on this, but the EPA, I believe, is funding the total TMDL, total maximum daily load for the river. They're trying to figure out what the nutrient level the river can handle, and then based on that, the EPA will go back and figure out what our treatment facilities should be dumping into the river, so that we're respecting the natural capacity of the river, as well as and supporting that while we're still using it to dump our treated, effluent water into the river. So that's that's something that's happening separate from this report that we're doing, but both reports should come out about the same time. So the cumulative information from this Greenways report and the report that tells us what we can and cannot dump into the river will help us all to have a bigger vision about the Assabet River and bringing it back to a much more natural, protected riverway.
While we're here, could you just point out, right above that is dogwood, and which
those
has a
are
lot of berries
wetlands
on it this time of year.
plants. Yep, and these are
all
good.
wetlands plants.
The berries are good food for wildlife. And you can see on the edge of the dam, you can see all the little turtles sunning themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, do you see those little black
yes,
spots? Those
right,
are all
right at the base.
Yeah, and there's one right there in the middle of the water on a rock.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they seem to be enjoying themselves.
They are indeed.
Looks like a very easy life.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to our next landscape of the Assabet River in Marlboro, which is on the other side of Robin Hill Street, near to a new development that's occurring. Behind me is a new development on Robin Hill Street, which is being developed by the Waterford Development Corporation for the Sepulchre Corporation. The Sepulchre is a local pharmaceutical company that is expanding in Marlborough, which is a good thing for us. And but as you can see, development along the Assabet River Valley is proceeding apace, and sometimes it's desirable, and sometimes it has adverse consequences. But in this development here, we were able to work with the developer during the site plan review process to have certain mitigations, which is improvements to the site, and that included requiring certain setbacks from the Assabet River, landscaping improvements to soften the overall development of the site, and also a canoe launch site that Priscilla negotiated with them. Priscilla, what will that entail?
The developer is required to allocate a few of their parking spaces for canoe launch, people who want to put their canoes or boats into the river, and then putting in a small canoe launch, which will be somewhere behind me along this bank of the river.
So this will be one of the few access points, formal access points for to be able to launch canoes into the Assabet.
Correct, in Marlborough. And right now, people do put boats in where we just were on the other side of Robin Hill Street, go under the bridge and continue down, and then you have to portage around some of the dams that are downstream.
Because it is a small river after all, so it isn't the kind of river where you'd have speedboats on it or anything.
Oh no,
like
no, no. And then in summertime when water's low, you pretty much can only put a canoe through most of the area. And above here, Northborough's a little bit navigable, but Westborough's really not that navigable. It's really the beginning of the river, and it's much more narrow and quite overgrown. So that's not navigable above someplace in Northborough.
This development being erected by the Waterford Corporation for the Sepulchre Company is being conducted on land owned by the Hillside School, and the Hillside School and Waterford are working on this as part of a joint development. So it's a kind of development that has a lot of positives in the sense that it's benefiting a local great institution. The Hillside School is providing us with Greenbelt, part of Greenbelt along the Assabet River. It's providing a canoe launching area as well as attendant parking on site too. So every time there's a development that occurs along the Assabet River, we hope to be able to know what to ask of them. But to know what to ask of them, we need a master plan. And part of the reason that we're working together as 5 towns on this is to know what to ask for as the Assabet gets developed.
And for all 5 communities to know what to ask for, so that as development occurs in every town, but as including Marlborough, that we're seeing that all the communities are taking advantage of that, and having a master plan, I think, helps communities to know that they have a vision. So I think that's a real good point that you made.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, let's go on to the next segment of the Assabet River in Marlborough. Here we are just north of Donald Lynch Boulevard in one of our major industrial parks. And one of the challenges that the city has with the Assabet River is the fact that it does flow through industrially zoned areas. And as you see here, it's quite a beautiful landscape. But that landscape is immediately abutted by industrial or office park development. And it's a challenge for us because on the one hand, we've zoned certain parts of the city for office park development for that purpose, and we want to see it developed, obviously. But on the other hand, we want to see the greenway of the Assabet River protected. Now, unlike residential development, we have a tool to protect the Assabet to some extent through site plan review, whereby we can work with the developers of properties to maximize the value of their sites, so the aesthetic value, and so that we can maximize the protection of the Assabet River as much as possible. And as you see here, in many instances, the industrial development, parking lots in particular, abut the Assabet quite closely. And it's our job to make sure that, as much as possible, the site plan review committee can work with the developers in ensuring that the Assabet River is protected to the extent that we can move away from the river as much as possible. The new Rivers Bill is an additional protection for the Assabet because it requires development to be 200 feet back from the river. But sometimes that's not all that great. It seems like a lot, but in this environment, but it provides some opportunity for us to and some leverage for us to work with developers to assure that the Assabet is protected as much as possible. What you see here is the rear of the New England Sports Center on Donald Lynch Boulevard near the intersection of Route 495 and 290. But what you see behind me is the beautiful meandering Assabet River and the town of Berlin beyond. Now, Priscilla, could you just describe where we're headed with first of all, I'd like to talk about the kind of mitigation that occurred here when the New England Sports Center was built. I take it that these pines were planted here to help protect the view shed from people who might be canoeing on the river?
Both this sports center and the mall. One of the mitigation measures that the Conservation Commission looked for was to make sure that the view from the river would not be impacted by the development above the river. So the idea was to, on all the slopes that were along the below the hills or below the buildings, that we would have a thick planting so that when you're in a canoe on the river or looking up, that you would see only trees and not necessarily the buildings. So so that's why you have interspersed of pines and deciduous plants, so that you're in the wintertime you still have that effect. So that we're just trying to make the river a scenic route no matter how close it is to development.
That's great. Oftentimes we think about the view from a development, but we don't think enough, I think, about the view towards a development from a river or stream. That's
and in this case, there's no windows or anything for this development to look out upon, so it was more important to screen it.
Yes.
And also to screen it from the people in Berlin. On the Berlin side, most of that is farmland, and if that is left to be farmland, it's nice to be able to protect that scenery and that view shed from that side as well.
Yes. It's all part of our good neighbor policy, you might say.
That's right.
But tell us about where we're headed next with the 5-town planning effort, again, which includes the organization of the Assabet River and the Sudbury Valley Trustees.
Yep.
Where are we going next?
Well, we have hired a person who actually works for the Sudbury Valley Trustees to collectively, the 5 towns and the organization for the Assabet River, to update the plan. And every participant from each community is providing updates on the plan, information that's needed. We're all collecting information from our existing open space plans or open space plans that are being updated currently, and putting that information together so that in the end we'll have a big map that shows this green belt and the areas that need to be protected. And as communities are going to town meeting to look for funding to purchase properties or are negotiating easements or conservation restrictions on properties, that we all collectively as one large group can help to support each other, because what happens upstream affects us downstream clearly. So if Westboro is willing and able to protect big pieces of open space upstream, we will all see the benefits for water quality purposes. So,
and I think that too, it's easier to convince town meetings and city councils of the value of open space acquisitions if there is a larger vision, if you can see that it's part of a big picture, not just an isolated acquisition that has no relationship to other protected parcels.
Yeah, and the Sudbury Valley Trustees has put together their own greenways plan, and this is a subset of that. So they were very eager to be a part of this update, because they've already done some of that work, and they have identified a lot of parcels along the river that they would like to work with communities to help protect because of the integrity of this whole watershed. And the organization for the Assabet River obviously exists to protect the Assabet River, so clearly they're a big player in this, because they want to help not only improve water quality, but this whole green belt and the recreational value of the river. So it's in all of our best interest, and certainly all 5 towns. It's an asset that I mean, historically, nobody would even think of it as a recreational resource, and
Yeah.
now it is something, and a lot of people do love to canoe, and the wildlife on the river is phenomenal. I mean, the amount of
Yes.
fish that are in there and the bird life that's there is really incredible. I mean, if people are at all eager to see some wildlife and to feel like you're out in the wilderness, just put a boat in the river and it's amazing. You sort of feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and because you can't really see a lot of the buildings that are right along the river. So it's really fascinating and it's fun.
That's great. And of course, we talk about Marlboro as being a country kind of city, but
That's
there is a
right.
lot of country in the city, and we're doing our best to see that it's protected.
Right, and it's these little gems that if we don't put it on a map and say, look, this is important, it will kind of get eaten away just because we didn't think about it, not because maybe we didn't want to, but we just didn't have a plan for it, or we hadn't brought it to anybody's attention, so it got lost in the cracks. So I think these kinds of plans are really important in writing them, and also once they're written, to implement them to achieve what's there. And if you don't have the plan, you're not going to get there.
No, it's true.
So-
So speaking of plans, how does this tie into the city's open space plan for the protection of open spaces within the city proper?
It will be part of the city's open space plan does include this whole corridor as a greenway, and working to protect that in some fashion. Again, it's the industrial part of town, so the idea would be that perhaps we don't buy those parcels, but we do try to protect the corridor along the river
Mm-hmm.
through that.
Yeah. And I think it's really great the fact that we have a very thorough open space plan, that it has its own in-city greenbelt system
Correct.
that's proposed, and then this greenbelt system will interconnect with large regional greenbelt systems on
Right.
the edge of the city. So in a sense, the city's greenbelt extends beyond its boundaries, which
Yeah.
I think is really one of the great parts of this plan, as well as the Callahan State Forest Plan and other plans that we have for the city. And each of the corners of the city is anchored by a major regional open space network that directly ties into the city's open space system.
Right.
And that's really innovative, I think.
I think
not
it's
many
great.
communities can boast of that.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And the plan is being updated this year, so we will be working on that.
okay. And it's been 15 years since the
So-
1986 plan.
Yeah.
has
I was
been-
thinking the open space plan, but yes.
Oh, the open space plan. Yes, that's
but
right.
the 86
Yeah.
the 86 plan, certainly that's 15 years. So it's the time has come, and a bigger vision needs to be set for it, so we can really protect this river that's behind us.
Oh, well, that's great. Now, in terms of the open space plan that you'll be working on, the city's open space plan, will that plan and this plan integrate together, do you think?
Oh yes, and I think that the key will be that the open space plan will reference all of these other plans that are being done or have been done, so that anybody who picks up that plan knows that there's a bigger vision that goes beyond the city's boundaries, and that it should encourage. I mean, the open space plan is a plan to direct and give some steps that people should take in order, or the city should take to protect open space. So,
Yeah.
so that will be a clear message in the open space plan.
Good. And again, this is part of our overall strategy for master planning in Marlboro. That the open space initiative, of course, is part of the master planning process, and all these plans get integrated together. But while we have this overall large vision of what we'd like to see from Marlboro in terms of open space or recreational facilities or whatever quality of life issues we have on hand, there are little opportunities that arise every now and then. There could be funding opportunities like the DEM funding or mitigation funding, or the Assabet River, which is an opportunity for us to take another look at how we want to see the city be protected in terms of its open space and quality of life. Well, thank you all for being with us today, and thank you, Priscilla, for being on the program, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. year's annual Labor Day Parade. It is
Hello and welcome to Council Agenda.
And this is the Mayor's Corner Office.
Hello and welcome back to the State House Report.
Now's the time scheduled for the public hearing.
And welcome to the Reeser Report.
Hello and welcome to Council Update.
Hi, I'm Mayor Bill Morrow.
Marlboro's in a very, very enviable position.
I'd like you to watch the Corner Office, and it's time to take a look at our expenditures from last year and our expenditures in the future. On Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
I anticipate them to be bringing some additional rides, a little bit more focused on the teens.
On M10.
Hi, I'm Bill Bryant. I'm up here at M8 again, involved in a lot of things now. Not long ago, I told you I was going to be trained. Well, I was, and now I have my own show. I also do some remote camera work for a wrestler called the Skunk, and camera work for a show called the Firing Squad. So why don't you come on up and get trained? Help out, maybe have your own show.
For the location of 12 poles.
Percent of the lake that they have versus what we have.
Departments in this city that aren't up to par with the other departments.
We have to replenish the money.
Let's have a public hearing on that.
Transportation Task Force.
A request for a special permit.
Order number 019008.
Is that correct, John?
Surprised to see that you're looking for a suspension of the rules. All those in favor? All those opposed?